Catholic saints don't fit into a set mold. So today I'm going to introduce you to 4 saints with disabilities that you should know about. Hi, I'm Kelly Mantone, the founder of Accepting the Gift, a ministry for Catholic parents of children with disabilities. It can sometimes feel impossible to relate to the most visible members of the communion of saints, especially if you or your child has a disability. But take heart, because there are saints with disabilities, and today I'm going to introduce you to 4 of them. And if your child wants to learn more about them in a fun and hands-on way, be sure to stick around, because at the end of the video, I'll introduce you to Accepting the Gift's newest saint activity book. First up is Saint Kateri Tekawitha, the first Native American woman to be canonized by the Catholic Church. She and her whole family contracted smallpox when she was very young, and while her immediate family all died, she was left partially blind as well as with scarring on her face. She was then raised by her uncle and his family. He became the chief of the Mohawk tribe since her father had passed away. And this uncle tried numerous times to marry her off, but Saint Kateri always refused, much to the frustration of her family. At the age of 19, she converted to Christianity and eventually moved to a Christian settlement near Montreal, where she lived until her death at the age of 24. Her feast day is July 14th in the United States and April 17th, which is the day she died, in Canada. Saint Germain Cousin was born in France in 1579. She had what today we would know as a limb difference, but most writers have said that her right hand was deformed and paralyzed. Her mother had died when she was just a baby, and her father quickly remarried a woman who really didn't like Germain because of her disability and her ill health. Her stepmother was very cruel towards her, and Germain's father didn't really step in to stop the abuse. So Germain was forced to sleep in the family's barn, and instead of going to school and getting an education, she was required to watch her family's sheep. But despite her poor health, her hunger, and her thirst, because her mother wouldn't really give her enough to eat, Germain wasn't bitter or angry. She would leave her sheep in God's protection every day so she could go to Mass. And despite her lack of education and religious training, she developed a really close relationship with God. She died at the really young age of 22. However, when her body was exhumed 40 years later, it had not decayed, so she's known as being incorrupt. And at that point, miracles started being attributed to her, and she really gathered a big following. So her feast day is now June 15th. Saint Joseph Cupertino was born in Italy. As a child, he was considered a slow learner, and he was known for having a very violent and explosive temper. When he got older, he tried to learn the trade of shoemaking, but failed. He entered a religious order, but really struggled with his duties and was dismissed from that order. Eventually, he was able to join the Franciscan order and study for the priesthood. And although he was a very holy man, Joseph had a really hard time learning and studying for his exams to become a priest. But eventually he was ordained, and once he was a priest, he started experiencing visions of God and heaven, and he would actually levitate. He was so excited. And he became really well known and famous, and these miracles attracted people to him. But his superiors sort of found the behavior and the crowds distracting. And so he was forced to live a solitary life and not really see all the people that wanted to come. So he is today the patron of the intellectually delayed, and his feast day is September 18th. Blessed Alexius Kim Si-U is one of the 124 Korean blesseds, and there's also 103 Korean saint martyrs as well. Alexius lived in the early 19th century during the Eluhe, forgive my pronunciation, persecution. He had become a Catholic early in his life and taught his sister and other people in the village the Catholic faith. But he was paralyzed from birth, and it was hard for him to make a living. He would use his left hand to describe religious books, but often relied on the charity of other Catholics to survive. So when the police came to his town to round up all the Catholics as part of this persecution, they didn't take him. And he voluntarily surrendered himself to them because he wanted to be with his fellow believers. He said to them, "I am also a Catholic. Why don't you arrest me? Is it because I am disabled?" So they took him, and he was imprisoned and tortured, but he never stopped proclaiming the faith. He preached to the prison guards and even to the governor, who was going to sentence him to death. In fact, then the governor ordered that his jaw be broken so he would no longer be able to preach and profess the faith. He died in prison from starvation when he was 33. The 124 Korean blesseds that he's a part of, they're all celebrated together on September 20th. Saint Kateri, Saint Germain, Saint Joseph Cupertino, Blessed Alexius Kim Si-U are proof that God's kingdom has room for us all. We all have talents and abilities that we can use to honor Christ's church, even when our families or superiors or society fails to recognize those gifts because of a disability. If your child wants to learn more about these saints, I invite you to check out our new saint activity book, Friends and Intercessors. It talks about these 4 saints along with lots of saints for every month of the year. There's a short entry you can read and then a hands-on activity, as well as resources for future reading and study. And if you want, you can download a free sample of the book at our website before deciding to purchase or not. So I've got that link below. Be sure to check it out. Do you have any other favorite saints who happen to have disabilities? Should I maybe do 2 or 3 parts to this? 4 more saints with disabilities you should know about? Let me know in the comments below, and then be sure to check out this next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.